real quick.
Yes.
Oh, son of a biscuit. Hold on. One moment. As you come in, say hello.
Yeah, where is that?
We're going to share our intro music that I completely messed up. There we go. There we go.
Spook Talk went live.
There we go.
Right.
It just goes over and over again. I'm like feeling the pressure today.
You and me both. I can barely hear it, but I'm like,
Oh. Sorry, I should have done it louder. Okay, as you come in, say hello. We're just going to be sharing for a minute and then we'll go on our intro. I do see we have some people coming in off Stitch so far. Welcome, Switch. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right, y'all. We got a couple people in here. Nice to see some friendly faces. Okay, so let's do the intro and then we'll take this off. Today's gonna kind of be chilling. Yes, I'm gonna leave the picture up for the intro and then I'll take it off.
I'm going to do the overlay. Can you see the overlay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that in the. You know what? I'll just take it off. It's okay. I don't know. Somebody told me I was a hot mess, and now I feel like I am definitely a hot mess. Like they jinxed me. I'm already a hot mess, but anyways, so if you're on, say hello so we can kind of go ahead and go through our intro. Yeah, whenever.
Okay.
Monica.
That's what I'm waiting for. I was like,
sorry. I thought y'all were waiting for people to come in. Sorry, guys. Welcome everybody to another. Welcome everybody to another thrilling episode of Murder Mystique, where shadows of true crime intertwine with the allure of the unknown. I'm your host, Muñeca.
And I'm Carly.
And I'm LD Patiloma.
Tonight we are live on YouTube, Stitch, and our vibrant Facebook group. Hello, everybody. We're so excited to have you all here with us as we dive into a topic that has captivated minds and haunting dreams.
Ooh.
That's right. But tonight isn't just about dark tales of murder and mayhem. We're here to hang out, connect with you, and explore the mystique surrounding all these different cases.
And we've got a little twist for you. We'll kick out things off with a story. One will leave you questioning everything. Is it true? Is it fake? You'll have to put in the detective hats. Oh my gosh. And figure it out before we reveal the truth at the end of the episode because that makes it more interesting for you guys.
We want to hear from you guys, your thoughts on the show, your comments. Everything matters to us. So don't hold back. Let's make conversation.
Whether you're a true crime aficionado or just dipping your toes in the world of paranormal hauntings, and love lust dynamics. There's something here for everyone.
So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and prepare for an evening filled with intrigue, suspense, and maybe a little of sexy mystery. Oh my God.
Let's get started. Here's our story.
Uh, all right.
Okay.
So Carly's doing the story today.
This story, like they're gonna at the end, you'll tell us if it's a fact, like or a fictional story. It starts out with a young couple. She's 16. I do believe he's 16 too. Their little love affair started like teenagers do, all about each other. But then he got very possessive, very domineering with her. So she, with her parents, cut it off. They helped her get a little restraining order against him because he got really obsessive. Just remember
Yeah.
that part.
Yeah.
Now, a couple weeks go by. She hasn't really heard from him. Life gets back to normal. All of a sudden, she'll be laying in her bed at night and somebody sounds like they're walking across the attic floor. Sometimes stuff down in the downstairs is getting moved during the night. You know, they get up, the keys weren't where they left them, clothes ain't where they left them. She's missing a couple items. It seems it's all around her. So the parents are like kind of stuck. Is the place haunted or is somebody
Mm-hmm.
breaking in? They really didn't know. So about a week goes past again. They're out, you know, doing their little shopping together as a family. They come home. The father just happens to look up to the attic window and watches a shadow person or figure move past. So he stops his family from going in. They go next door and they call 911. As the cops come, they go through the house. They found some stuff disturbed, but other than that, they told him it was safe to go back in. So they did. This stuff kicks off for another week. Yet again, they come home late one night, look up, and the dad sees it again. So he goes back next door, calls 911. This time, the sheriff comes out with the deputy. He goes through the house. What they found will shock anyone. Not only did they find a man's clothes stuffed behind like a dryer in the basement and stuff, they
Mm-hmm.
found throughout, like this was an old farmhouse, they found a cubby hole that led through the walls. So the cops started following it all the way up to the attic. What they found in the attic was this teen boy hiding there with a manifesto of how to kill each family member. So his plan from the get go was not only to creep them out and mentally break them, but
Yeah.
the end was to slaughter this whole family. He was arrested. Here's the kick in the butt. He only got a couple months in a mental facility for this whole thing, so he got out. Now, I don't know like how they reconnected and how this all played out. She went off to college a couple years later. She literally started running into him again and into him again.
Oh,
Here he started his stalking behavior all over again. Yet
wow.
again, this date, they couldn't really do anything about the stalking unless he harmed her. So at the end of this, she did get assaulted. He did go to jail finally, but just imagine years of this behavior. And it
Yeah.
just really did play on her. Like she,
Yeah.
I guess, became withdrawn. She really didn't date anymore there for a while. She was like just in her own little world. But for y'all, at the end, we'll let you know if that story is fact or fictional. So they really did believe it was a ghost at one point, haunting their house. That's the scary part.
Well, that doesn't help me because I'd be thinking there's a ghost up in this house.
The little bumps in the night, you know, you put your keys on the table, you wake up, they're somewhere else. We all, you know, some of us have had that
Yeah, some of us
happen.
had that happen, yeah. Some
So
of us
it's
with kids
like,
sometimes it ends up being the kids, but
yeah, or
Yeah.
you
it is
just kind of
type,
forget where you
you
put it. It kind of plays on your mind too. But at the end, we'll reveal if that's fact or fiction.
Yeah. So we were gonna do some like Manson case today, but I think we just kind of wanted to chill, hang out, have some conversations. Um, get to know everybody. Word silence.
know.
So,
I was just looking up fun
Hey, Chris.
actress court cases.
So do y'all remember the movie, now that we're talking about that, do you remember the movie where it was like an urban legend where the girl kept getting phone calls
Yes,
and then the person
Stranger
wanted to be
Calls.
there it is, that's the movie. Yeah, yeah. It was originally like just like a I guess that's what it was. Like they said it was like an urban legend that people talked about and then it became a movie. That one kind of creeped me out.
Yeah, it was
That's
a
kind of
tale for
it kind of reminded me of
babysitters.
this place, not so bad, but like in the sense of being in the same house, you know?
Yes.
Is that was they say that urban legend was put out to fear babysitters, to always check on the children, never answer the phone,
Yes.
never answer the door,
Yeah.
lock the door. That case, that
Attentive.
yeah, it was for babysitters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like the
Ye-
pop rocks and the soda.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh
Yep,
my
remember
gosh.
that one?
You could do a lot more things with Pop Rocks.
Oh man. Oh,
Um,
I'm an urban legend.
I'm just saying, you know what? You wouldn't have been that cringy if you knew I wasn't right. Living up to the harlot name. um, hey Chris.
Chris, what's
Hey.
y'all's favorite urban legend?
Okay, so me and Monica have had these conversations about the like Chusa, and I can't remember. There was like the the Bruja, and then there's like or the witch, and then there's the owl, and that one always creeps me. I remember that creeped me out as a kid because like my friend at the time when we were kids, she'd be like, "Oh yeah, my uncle died because this big bird came out and was at the window, and it just gave bad luck."
Yeah.
That would
I
creep any
find
kid
it
out.
very interesting how every culture in different areas have different ones.
hmm
You know, they're not they're and some of them are actually really scary. Like the ones my grandma told me.
Yeah.
And then some urban legends are just everybody hears of. Like we all
Mhm.
heard about the babysitter one, and we're from different
Mhm.
areas. And remember,
Yeah.
we didn't have phones back then
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
for sure.
this.
It was like word by mouth.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm. I think
Mine's
I think
oh,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, go ahead.
Oh no, mine. My favorite one's the Hook, Lover's Lane. She
Oh,
gets
yeah.
out. Yeah, the Hook one is
Mhm.
hanging on the car. But what's yours?
The the one where the girl's at the gas station, or where they say that the girl was like just driving, went to the gas station, and you know she leaves, and it's they always tell, and it's really because they want you to check the back of your car to make sure that nobody's in the back. But like the legend was that the girl was like in a storm and she's she stops at a full service gas station. The gas station attendant freaks her out because he's kind of one of the weirdos. Sometimes you go to do these random places that have no gas but then they have a full gas station. It's kind of sometimes the people are a little weird, and it winds up being that she gets freaked out by the gas station attendant, takes off, and then winds up having somebody in the back of the car that she didn't even know she had. And then she winds up dying from it. So it's like it's really that one was really made for us to pay attention to every time you get into the car to make sure there's nobody in there with you if you're alone.
Yes.
I think
Because of that,
I'm very, and I think it just because there's very rare times that I'm alone. But when I am alone, I like to make sure I'm alone.
I do
Yes.
too. Because of that story, I always check my back seat, especially when I used to come out of work at late at night. I'm always like looking before I get in the car because of that
Yeah, yeah,
story.
yeah. I won't
You
even
know
open the car unless I'm looking first.
Yeah.
that
I even check my trunk.
that reminds me like when I was going through. Okay, there's a small town before you go through Copper's Cove from Austin in
Mhm.
Central Texas, and it's like just this rundown town, like around I think it's in Briggs. And so I remember one night I was going, my phone had died, of course. I
Oh,
was fairly new to that area at the time, and I was driving down this, like, I get into this town, and I knew you drive straight, and then at somewhere you would have to turn. Well, I had turned 10 miles early, and I ended up in this like little small town. I think it is called Briggs. It's just a tiny rundown ghost town. Or well, when I turned on there, it was like it was dead. And I just remember feeling like so heavy, and I was like, Oh my gosh, I'm so scared. And like I had my radio on just to kind of, get with it. Well, when I did like you go to this like turn and then you do like a U-turn and you come out, gets you back on that main road. So I
Mhm.
come out on that main road and I get maybe 1 or 2 miles. Yeah, and the radio starts glitching. And I swear to Bob, like I had seen somebody in the back seat and I was like, oh hell no. I rebuke that. Just like, dear Jesus, you better get him. You better get him. Just I rebuke it. I rebuke it. And but that's what it made me think of, that one time that I almost died alone in a car with something demonic. And not only that, it messed up my radio. I don't know if I mentioned that, but my radio was like staticky, and I was like, "Oh my god,
Oh,
I'm gonna."
great.
But I made it home. It was terrifying. I do have some questions for y'all that might be fun if y'all are interested.
That's
They're
fine.
they're questions for the like paranormal enthusiasts. Okay. And if you're uncomfortable, you don't have to answer them. So, what was your first paranormal experience that convinced you of the existence of ghosts or spirits?
Okay, I can go first. On mine, I was a little girl. My grandfather just passed away, my dad's dad, and we lived in the same, like, we stayed with my grandparents a lot, but we lived upstairs for a little to help, get stuff done. Well, every night you would hear a scratch up the wall. Now, when he was alive, he had a cane and he would drag
Mhm.
it going up the steps against the wall. They would repaint and repaint, but then marks always came back. Also, every Father's Day, they used to put 20 up on the mantle. They continued to do it when he passed, and it would always come up missing. So my family was always steep in it. Like, they always talked about it. They never hid the paranormal from us kids. But that really, like, laying up at night and, like, hearing the scraping coming up the steps when nobody else is awake, and it kind of stuck with me throughout the years. It wasn't scary either. It was actually, I don't know how to explain it. It didn't scare me.
Yeah, you were like at peace with it.
Yeah. What was y'all's?
I'm a. Did Do you remember yours? Because I can go next if you want. If you're like, I need to think.
Oh, no, no, I was reading Chris. Chris says he doesn't
Yeah.
think there are ghosts. And I just wanted to kind of talk about that really quick before we go into the next one, the next person's story, because um, sometimes people don't see things or they don't experience it. And I feel like that's maybe why that happens sometimes. So I have a question for Chris. Is it because you've never experienced anything? So if you want to answer us, that would be great. And then I guess for me, I don't think it was as normal as I guess. Let me just tell y'all, so y'all can tell me how y'all feel about it.
Okay.
So I can't say I've ever had like a paranormal like very first time because I grew up as a kid with gifts. I grew up with the gift of seeing, the gift of hearing. Just I feel like all over I had like all my senses were just extra. And as a kid, when you're growing up like that, I can remember like when I was 3, it's crazy. I even remember this one instant when I was 3 years old where I saw somebody that didn't look the same color as everybody else, but it was another kid in my house that I had never seen before, so I thought it was a stranger. This was when I was 3. Like this is just one thing that my memory lets me remember sometimes. But when I was growing up, I thought what I saw in the world was normal. And then when I would ask my mom questions, my mom's face would go pale. She would be like, "What are you talking about?" Like it would be like when we moved to a house or to a new apartment, I would see things that she didn't see, and then I would talk to her like if she could see them, and she was like, "What are you talking about?" And my mom was one of those Catholic believers where she likes to pray alone. She likes to get her, time alone. She doesn't talk about things like that. So my dad was more spiritual, and he understood he had gifts, but he never talked about them for some reason. But he was Catholic as well. And so for me, I don't think I had a paranormal experience that kind of is like y'all's. I feel like I grew up seeing things and in these gifts, and then one day I started talking about them, and then my mom started getting scared, and then my dad was like, "Don't talk to your mom about that, but you can talk to me about it."
Mhm.
And then as I got into my teen years, I realized that I could hear things that I thought everybody could hear that nobody could hear.
Yes.
And so then I started to explain that to some of my friends, and they were like, "Girl, you crazy," or things like that. So for me, I think now that I can explain it, I can say that you know how you see in certain movies like The Sixth Sense where he sees ghosts. He can see the damage that
Yeah.
happened to them before they died, and then he can see them afterwards as the same person but with the damage, right? Okay. For me, it was like I saw people who had, life in their skin, and then
Mhm.
people who looked gray, but they looked the same. And wherever, whatever era they came from, it was the clothes that they were still wearing. So, like, sometimes I would see, like, I don't know, we would be places, and I would be like at my uncle's house, and like it's an old, it's got like what we would call monte in the back, which is like a lot of just forest and just trees and things, and then like he had a house there, and sometimes I would see a floating guy who kind of almost looked like a pirate, is what how I used to say it, but he
Mhm.
had one of those like coats that was from the army. I couldn't explain it when I was a kid, but I called him the floating pirate. He didn't have an
Oh,
eye patch, but that's as a kid that's how I explained him, and
yeah.
so I'm thinking like my whole life that these things are just normal because I've been used to seeing them since I was a kid. And then when people I start telling people in my family or people that are close to me, they start telling me that they don't see them. And then
Yeah.
my mom gets scared. My dad's like, certain things you see you probably shouldn't say because I think you have eyes that are a little bit different. And I never wore glasses till I was 21 or anything like that. So like I always thought maybe something was wrong with me. Something wrong was with my eyes because I would be trying to get sleep at night and I could hear conversations going, and I'm like, shut up. I was telling my brothers, like my brothers, I had two brothers and I was by myself. I would tell my brothers, shut up, be quiet, I can hear you. And then my mom would be like, go to sleep. And then I would sneak into my brother's room and try to tell them to be quiet, and they were asleep. So then here I
Oh.
am hearing conversations, and I'm like, I start to think, like, am I going crazy? Like, what is
Mhm.
this? So, I mean, I've definitely had scares. This is how, that they don't really like rules sometimes. When I was a teenager and my senses were getting stronger, I remember washing my face and taking a shower. And it's like, you're washing your face sometimes, you get that soap in there. I remember rinsing my face and then opening my eyes and seeing something right in front of my face. And I was like, but that's when they shouldn't be in the shower, first of all. They got to have some rules and respect, but they don't. They
Yeah.
don't care where you're at. They're going to, if they know you can see them, they will scare you. So for
Yep.
me, I think that was probably one of the scariest ones for me growing up with this as normality, but not knowing. When I got stronger as a teenager in my like 17, 18, it seemed like it got more scarier because the things I saw as a kid, they weren't so bad, I guess. And then the older I got, the stronger I got, the more I started to become scared because they were right here. They weren't just passing by and noticing that I watched them or I could see them. It was more like, hey, it's time to scare. It's time to freak her out. It's time to torment her.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I can definitely say that's not for the weak. That tormenting that they do, it's not for the weak. I
Mm-mm.
understand why sometimes when you hear people say, "Oh, I heard voices, so uh I did this and I did that," when they make really bad choices about it. But because you have to be a very strong-minded person to understand and be able to discern what's what, because
Yes.
they can sound like your family, they can make themselves look like your family. It's
Mhm.
crazy. And it gets really bad if you don't know how to, get out of that stuff.
Yeah.
Some people just ignore it and then it goes away because they ignore it. I've heard that too. Like, when people have like paranormal experiences in their house, I've heard, oh, I kind of ignored it and just was like, whatever. And then it just realized it can't bother me, so it goes away. My dad
Uh,
used to tell me he would have somebody sit next to his feet since he was a kid. That's how me and my dad had the first conversation about us being
mhm.
gifted. He told me, I'm going to tell you something, but don't tell nobody. He says, you can't tell your mom things like that because she gets scared. She doesn't understand because she can't see. She doesn't have certain gifts. Everybody has their own gift. And I'm like, okay. And he's explaining to me this as a kid. He's like, but, when I was younger, I used to feel like somebody sat next to my feet all the time when I was asleep. He goes, and I thought it was my brothers, and I used to kick and there was nobody there. He said, but then I got older. He's like, and I feel like maybe I got stronger because I could, see certain things, but I never said nothing because the church doesn't like it. And I'm like, okay. And I'm understanding this as like a kid, and I'm like, okay. And I remember he told me up until he actually, my dad actually died and came back when he was in his 50s. He died really young. He died at 54 from a
Mm-hmm.
random blood clot. But even up until right before he died and came back, he still felt it. But by the time he was an adult, he was fed up with it. He said, I never saw what it was. And I have vision. He's like, but I never ever saw who was always sitting next to my feet. He said, but there would be times where I'd be so tired coming home from work, laying down to go to bed after a shower, and I would feel somebody sit next to my feet, and I would get so mad. I would be like, get the F away from me, like, leave me alone. And then he goes, and then I would feel the cushion go up, and I wouldn't feel it no more. But there were times where, even all these years, he said it never bothered me, but it always sit down next to me, and it bothered me that I knew that there was a presence there because it made me uncomfortable. And he goes, I
Yeah.
was never scared at first. I was when as a kid. He said, but that's when he was trying to say, that's what I mean when I say I know how what you're going through because I've experienced something. But
Yeah.
my dad died, came back to life, and then he did rehab for a little while, and he told me, I need to tell you something because at that time I was a minister. I had just been ordained. He was like, I need to tell you something. I'm like, what? What's going on? Because me and my dad are best friends. He says, I haven't felt nobody sit next to my feet. He goes, but remember, I died and came back.
Oh.
And then he went on for another year of good health. Told me he didn't feel it. He didn't feel it. Then he died and came back again right before he finally passed away in the same day. And he had told me that I think a day or two before he had called me and told me, "Hey, you remember how I told you I hadn't felt nobody for a long time since my death or whatever?" I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, I think I felt somebody sit next to my feet this morning, but I guess I couldn't really say if it was as heavy of a somebody sitting down. And I was kind of confused when he told me that. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, usually I feel somebody like real heavy sit down. He said, this time it almost felt like a kid sat down next to my feet, if that makes sense. I'm like, okay, so somebody less heavy. He's like, yeah. He goes, I just thought it was kind of weird. Then a couple days later, um, my dad went on a bike ride and he like a motorcycle ride. He came home and his heart stopped. His girlfriend gave him CPR. He woke up for a little bit. He woke up enough to go to the hospital and then flatlined. We found out it was a blood clot to the heart. But I remember my dad saying that when he died and came back the first time, he didn't feel nothing for a long time. That whatever it was that was always following him throughout his whole life, when he died and came back, he didn't see it for a while, and then right before he died, he felt it. So I thought that was kind of something that I've never seen so long term, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
paranormal wise. So I think it comes in all
Yeah.
different ways.
Yeah. I don't know. He's braver than me because I feel somebody touch my toe and I'm out. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think the paranormal that made me question it was probably, well, there was a lady in the bathroom, but I don't know if at that point I was really questioning it. But she would come into the bathroom, turn on the sink for a couple minutes, turn it off, and then leave. And then there was probably Nana's house. So many things happened in her house. Probably
Nana's
her
real
house.
strong too, though. I've met Nana.
Nana,
Her Nana is a Nana.
her Nana is a hot mess.
I feel like sometimes she's a magnet too, because she's just such a bright person, like a bright aura of
Mhm.
energy too.
Yeah, so I would tell him like I could hear like somebody walking in the hall at night, and then like the lights would tap on and off, and then everybody would be telling me that I was crazy, and then I'm like, but I can see it. And then my dad told me when I told him about this, that's when they told me about me being in the crib as a baby and then I floated on the dresser. And that's a whole nother story. I think I've shared it a couple times, but Nana, great grandma's house, or yeah, my great grandma's house, Mary, Miss Mary Ann, grandma, or whatever, Grandma Mary Ann, she got this house from her late husband, Williams, right? So he, before before he was married, just like great grandma was, right? And in this house, his wife had died. So then, you know, Grandma Marianne moves in, and she would say, anytime you touched any of your stuff that was still in the house, she'd feel somebody slap her. Like, and it wasn't just her; it was like a bunch of people come in and say same thing, and it had this eerie feeling in the house. Especially, I remember the hallway as a child, you know, and I don't think I ever slept over there. If I did, I about probably peed my pants all night, honestly, because I remember as a child, she would watch those Judge Joe Brown and Judge Judy
Mhm,
shows.
mhm,
We were just
mhm.
talking about that earlier. And so she'd be falling asleep, and I'd be like, I have to go potty. So I would run from the living room, and then I would hit the light on for the hallway. I'd hit it on, and then run into the bathroom, turn that light on, go potty, wash my hands, turn it off, then run to the hallway. Just run back because there was this like hallway that I just remember having tunnel vision with, and it always seemed like someone was just walking around that room. And then my dad was telling me when I was a baby, this is going to sound really out there, but he had put me in the playpen, and I was crying, so he went in there to go check on me, and I was just a little baby. And then he says he came back and I was on the dresser. I thought this was a made up story. It's not. He's been telling me the same story for years and years and years.
I'm so
And
glad you shared that.
because, well, it gets worse. So, so I guess that same night, my dad, when my parents were married, went to go touch my mom's hand, and he felt somebody slap her. And yeah, it's crazy. So that's probably around the same time that I figured out with Nana's house doing all that crazy crap.
You know what though? I'm glad you shared that because I was thinking, it just blew my mind right now. My brother used to have a big house, but it was a one
Mhm.
story. So like down the hallway, it was like a one, two, three. I think it was a 3 or 4 bedroom. So there was a long hallway, and the bedrooms were like this. His was in the corner. His daughter's was here. There was an extra room and then a closet. So then you go down the hallway, and then to this side there's a kitchen, and then the living room, right? And then a dining room on the opposite side. So it was a long house. Now that you're saying that, I was thinking that he saw you go from the playpen to the dresser. No, you said he
Mm.
left you in the playpen and then you were at the dresser when he came back, right?
Yeah, like I'm a fucking fairy.
You know what though? This was so crazy to me because my son Jason, when he was, I want to say 2 years old, where he was already walking and kind of like babbling,
Mhm.
he was a big milk drinker when he was a kid. He liked milk. And
Mhm.
so in that time where you're switching him from milk from the powder to milk and all that stuff,
Mhm.
right? My daughter was in school and they're 5 years apart, so she was in school and I was just with him at home at my brother's house because I would spend a lot of time with him. My brother and his girlfriend, I think that they were coming back from HEB or something like that. And this was one of the things that really freaked me out because again, there were cycles in my life where I was getting stronger and I felt them. And at 21, 22, I want to say I was 23 because Jason was 2. So I was 23 and I was going through this thing. That's why I was actually staying with my brother a lot because I didn't like to be alone in the dark. And then my dad was always
Yeah.
at work when I was living with him. And it was just, I was going through things that I just needed to make sure I had company with.
Mhm.
And my son was young, my daughter was in school. I remember me and him walking because he was like a little gum next to me all the time, next to my leg when he was walking. We were going to get milk. So the hallways that we were in this room, we go all the way down the hallway and into this kitchen, and it has a step down. It's one of those refrigerators that opens big like that, right? I opened the left side to get the milk. I know Jason was literally on my leg as we stepped down. And I was like, okay, you want me to warm up your milk? And I didn't hear nothing. And I heard Jason scream bloody murder. So before I even reached to get the milk, I noticed he's not there. I run because that house was so eerie. I even when I first went to the backyard because he had a pool, I
Yeah.
saw a woman and a man hanging from the back tree.
Oh hell no.
So when my brother first got this house, he didn't ask. He was like, I like it. It's got a pool. We have nieces and nephews. We're gonna get it. You're welcome to come over whenever. So I was like, cool, whatever.
Mhm.
Well, I remember the first time I ever walked in. Like I said, I see things that everybody sees. I walked in that old tree. Must have been old because there was 2 people hanging that I saw. but I didn't tell him because my brother, he'll freak out. He'll just be like, "Oh my God, I want to move." So I didn't say nothing. This is just normal to me already, you know. I
Hmm.
didn't say nothing. Well, as soon as that boy screamed, I ran for my life because that he was 2 years old, and I ran all the way down the hallway. And something in my soul just told me to go back to the room we were at. He
Hmm.
was on. I have a sleigh bed right now. You know, the both of them go like this, the ends. My brother had a queen sleigh bed for his daughter in that room. We were there because Jason was playing with her toys. Well, I running all the way over there. He's literally, mind you, he knows my son knows better than to be on a bed by himself jumping. He was holding on to the footboard of the sleigh bed and he was looking back crying when I got in there.
Oh
So number
hell.
one, my son knows not to be up there. Number two,
Hmm.
never would there have been enough time for me just opening the refrigerator door for him to have ran that way. It was
Yeah.
almost like I couldn't even comprehend what happened because I was like, did he teleport? What happened? Because he was right next to me. I opened that refrigerator, heard bloody murder scream from my son, and I just ran for my son's life,
Oh,
and he was there.
Carly can answer that. Carly be like, I know exactly what that is.
Yeah, well, and it scared the. I mean, I'm not one person to be very scared because I see things a lot, but that scared me because that's my son. That's my son. I didn't know that that could happen. I didn't know that that was possible. You see things that happen in movies, and you're trying to go through things. Me going through spiritual gifts.
Hmm.
I'm getting stronger. I'm trying to make sure my kids are protected. I'm protected spiritually in the world from predators. All those things. But for that to have happened, and then I knew it was that house. That house had to have sat on some old land and things have happened. Because one, two old people were hanging in the back that I saw. The tree was real old, like the roots were deep rooted and then deep rooted on top of the ground. And then it was just big and it was literally just a tree that had grown so big they couldn't cut it, they couldn't deroot it, and there was a pool next to it, so they just left it. So I just knew that being in that house, I was always eerie, but my brother was there with me most of the time, or we had company or whatever. It was a big house. We were always entertaining each other with dinners and stuff.
Hmm.
But I knew that as soon as my son screamed, I knew that he wasn't around me. That weighed me. I knew it was the house. It was the spirit of the house, the energy that was in there from that was just lingering from leftover years. But that was something I know I couldn't explain.
Yeah.
Now, talk about kids. My oldest daughter, she is now 21. Back when she was about, I would say about 3 years old, in between 2 and 3, my ex's uncle had passed away before my daughter was even born, years ago from a heart attack at his job. So she never met him. We never talked about him. We didn't have pictures really of him hanging up. I never knew him. Well, one day we were over at his parents' house and we were looking through a photo album. And my daughter's sitting on her grandmother's lap and she's like talking to her and they're just looking through. She's trying to grab pictures from my ex. So he had some and she stopped she made her grandmother stop on this picture and it was of him and she said his name. Now, this girl could barely talk yet. She was just like learning to really communicate. And she goes, I see him at night. I see him. And she goes, no, honey, you can't. And then she stopped and just looked at me. She goes, she can. I'm like, probably. But she knew who he was, like everything. And like
Yeah. You can recognize him.
yeah, she
Yeah.
verbally expressed it. And about I would say about 3 days later, we were downstairs. She was upstairs in our bedroom. It was a 3 bedroom house, but we had
Hmm.
her in our room and the two boys in the back room. So
Hmm.
we hear a commotion. Now my two boys at that time were in school already. So it wasn't coming from them. So me and my ex looked at each other. We went upstairs. In her pack and play was glass. And she
Oh
was just
no.
sitting there on the other edge. And we are thankful like she didn't get hurt. I don't know where she got this glass from to this day. We never could explain
You don't know where it came
how
from, yeah.
she like why was it broken her
Hack and
pack
play,
and
yeah.
play, and we were so confused. And that wasn't the first time. That wasn't the last time. It was like a lot of activity always happened around her. Um, as she got
Hmm.
older, she started questioning stuff, and I was like, I tried my best because I have different types of things that goes on for me that she had going on for her. But like She reminded me so much of my great grandmother with that. Like stuff
Yeah.
would just happen around her, like gravitate
Mhm.
around her.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
it's
I
just
feel like
so
that's what
weird.
happens to Nana.
And then I freaked out my mother. I woke up one day from a dream. I was panicked. So I called her right away. I'm like, "You're gonna get in a car accident." She's like, "What?" I'm like, "I had this dream. You were in a car accident in a white car." She phoned me. Got really hurt. About a week later, I get a call. "You're a bitch. You're this and that." I'm like, "What?" She wasn't angry. She was just upset. She's like, "What?" She was
Yeah.
hard to break, but I was wearing my seatbelt. I'm like, thankful. She destroyed her car. Exact location. I was like, "I'm so sorry." And from that day forward, she started believing me with my stuff. And that's when my daughter was saying that stuff, she looked right at me. She's like, "Could it be?" I'm like, "Okay." And I don't know if to this day if my daughter still does see stuff or if she don't talk about that stuff with her. Like we don't communicate like that, me and her. But she was really the only one of my 5 kids that ever came close to what like feeling the way I did.
Yeah.
Like still I can't explain. She has so many instances like so much stuff happened with her. Like she was upstairs one day, I was doing laundry in the basement, I come out and she was on the front porch. How did she climb the stairs? How did she get down? How stuff like that that were it was so unexplainable. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
unexplainable is the word, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And you didn't have cameras back then,
no, we
like we
didn't.
do now, you know?
Early 2000s, but it was just all unexplainable with her.
Yeah.
Just always gravitated like her. There was other
Mhm.
kids in the house,
Yeah.
but her.
It's,
I
it's
have I
crazy.
have 5 kids. And Mary's no, she knows all of them. They all have good personalities. They're a little crazy sometimes. Everybody has their own little thing that they are about their personality. Um,
Mhm.
one thing we know is so I have Nevea, she's my oldest, Jason, Chris, Celia, and Ava. Chris is the middle kid. Miss Mary knows Chris back in the day used to be the kid who jumped off of everything, wore his cowboy boots and no shirt, and he didn't care. He was loud. He was crazy kid, right? The older he became, the more quiet and very solitude about his demeanor became. But he still, it's funny because I always introduce people and like, look, if you meet my son Chris, he's very quiet, but once he gets comfortable, he can be the loudest one. So when you were talking about your daughter, it reminded me of Christopher, my son, who's the middle child. He's a blast to be around if he's comfortable, but if sometimes he has quiet moments, but he seems to be the quiet kid, but he's loud when he wants to be. But he's known to be the quiet kid in my family. I remember he had a dream, and this is one of those unexplainable things too that I know Chris was saying too, like he thinks everything happens for a reason and that there's no ghosts and things like that. I read that too. Trust me, Chris, I did. But this is one of the things where I was thinking like there's certain things that we can't explain. My son's dad was kind of in and out of his life just because he was in jail all the time. He was fighting his own mental illness that he never wanted to treat. And when I tried to get him help, he thought I was trying to throw him in a hospital because I was crazy or something, you know? But I was like, sometimes if you cannot control your mental, you have to get help. You know, you need meds. But that's why he was always in and out of jail. So my son really didn't grow up with his dad because I just taught him that mental illness is a sickness. And maybe when his dad gets better, he can see him.
Mhm.
But I never
Right.
kept him away from knowing the pictures and seeing him, things like that, you know, having phone calls, things like that. And his dad understood that phone calls needed to be, you know, of good words and things like that. Well, my son's dad went to jail when he was 4. He was 4. My other daughter was 2. And years later, I'm living in Victoria. My daughter's about to graduate. My son's going blind, and my son Jason's going blind, not Chris. And Christopher has a dream and wakes up and comes to my room. Now, mind you, he's a quiet kid, doesn't sleep with mom, but
Mhm.
he will sometimes. He goes into my room like my door's an open door, and he says he's crying. And I've never seen my kid cry this much. His face is red, it's puffy. I thought maybe he hurt himself while he was asleep or he fell off his bed. He's like, I had a bad dream. I need you to call my grandma and check on my dad. Where is he? Blah, 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 blah. Now,
Oh.
at this point where we're at, Chris had got out and he was kind of transitioning into just being out of jail. And he was kind of going back to the same friends and it was becoming a problem. So I had told him it would be better for him not to visit my kids right now because he's having problems in the neighborhood he's in. And I just didn't want nobody following him to come and hurt me and my kids. So Chris is crying. He tells me, I had a dream. I had a dream that my dad got shot. I don't know what to do. I need to know he's alive. And I'm just like, I jump up quick because one, my kid never tells me things like this, but he also doesn't know. His dad, when we were actually on good terms and friends, told me that he would have dreams that happen. Like Christopher's dad, his name is Chris. So Chris Sr. had a dream his grandma died. The next morning, he gets a call from his mom that his grandma died and she's coming home to go so they can go check her at the house, whatever, And so he always had dreams that happened. So I never told Christopher or my children that. I just kept that to myself. But then Christopher had that dream and it scared the living shit out of me. So I call his mom quick and I'm like, just stay here with me. And I have her on speakerphone. She's like, hey, what's going on? It's morning, whatever. I'm like, where's Christopher? She's like, what do you mean? I said, where's Big Chris? She goes, I'm not sure why. I said, baby Chris had a dream that he got shot. What has he been doing? She goes, well, his brother got into a fight with the neighborhood, one of the neighborhood guys because his dog bit him and they got into a fight about it because they wanted to put the dog down. He's like, but other than that, Chris just got into that fight yesterday, but that wasn't anything bad. It wasn't something that became of anything. She goes, but right now, um, he's fine. He's supposed to be coming over here to have lunch with us. And I'm like, okay, make sure you have Chris call me because I can't get a hold of him. He didn't phone. He was fresh out of jail. And so she says, okay, let me talk to Chris. And so she tells baby Chris, everything's fine. He's coming over. He'll call him. About 5 minutes later, he calls Chris and tells him, hey, mijo, hey, son, I'm okay. Everything's fine. Don't worry. Your dream is just a dream sometimes. He's trying to, just console my son. And my son's like, okay, I'm going to go to school. Okay, whatever, right? Now, a parent's never going to tell their kid that they got into a fight, they got into trouble, and his mother's never going to give me the good truth. She's going to give me the puffed up, oh, what happened? I find out what really happened was the older brother made the dog bite the guy in the neighborhood over gang colors. So they said that they were going to kill the dog. That was the
Yeah.
argument that his sister told me about, right? Okay, fine. That's what I had heard. Okay, fine. So I knew the truth, and then I knew the lie, the pretty lie that they gave me. So I knew what was going on. My son heard from his dad. He went to school. Okay, fine. That night, I don't remember who called me. I don't remember if it was his mom or it was afternoon, right? Like right after school when my son came home, like around dinner time, 7, 8ish. I got a phone call saying that Christopher went home. His girlfriend, I guess his girl at that time, him and his girlfriend had an apartment. She was a very tiny girl. He's a very tall guy. I guess she was asleep next to the dog in his house, and I guess she looked like a ruffle of covers because she had her head under the cover. The guy
Hmm.
that got bit by the dog walked into Christopher's house and shot the dog in the head with a shotgun.
Oh my
Now,
gosh.
Chris is coming, I guess, back from picking up his brother to go with him back to his apartment.
Hmm.
The guy comes out of his house, and people in the neighborhood are coming out of that apartment complex scared. And the girlfriend obviously didn't get shot, thank God, because she was right next to the dog, back to back, but she looked like a ruffle of covers because she was so small. The guy goes in the house, shoots the dog, walks out because he's looking for Chris. And it was because Chris had got into an argument with him about it. So
Yeah.
the brother's dog bit him, but Chris had the mouth of the argument. So the guy comes into Chris's house, shoots the dog, walks out looking for Chris. Chris is pulling up in his truck as this guy's coming out, and the guy just starts shooting. So then Chris jumps out of the car and starts shooting back at him, tries to run around to go see his brother on the other side of the car, and then I didn't even tell y'all. As soon as Chris got scared, my son Chris got scared about what happened. I prayed with him. Me and my kids prayed together for Chris to be protected from anything that may be coming to harm him. Well, Chris ran around as the gunshots are coming from this guy. He has another gun. That it's a shootout. It's an all over shootout.
Yeah.
It started with a shotgun and ends with handguns. Chris is running around shooting so that he can go to his brother and they can be together and be just safe together. Well, as Chris is coming to get around his to get to his brother around the truck as he's shooting at this guy, his brother steps out to see where Chris is to make sure he's coming safe, and he gets the shot. So
Oh,
he
Oh my
gets the shot.
gosh.
He goes, they get in the truck, and Chris throws his brother in the truck, drives off while the guy and him are still shooting at each other, and they take off. So
Mhm.
Christopher winds up not being the one who got shot because his brother stepped in the way of his shot. So the brother survives. I get this story from his mother that he was supposed to go pick up Abel, go to the house, get the girlfriend, come back. But I guess all this commotion had happened. This is what happened. She's calling me frantic. She's telling me to pray. Abel's in the hospital. The brother's in the hospital. Chris took off because he got scared. The cops are everywhere. Like, she just calls me to pray. She's like, all I can tell you is, can you please pray for Chris, because baby Chris had the dream, but his dad didn't get shot. His uncle got shot. So I don't know what to do. And she's panicking, calling me, because I'm a prayer warrior with her. We pray together. And so I'm like, okay, okay, okay. I don't know what else to do. I just sit down in shock. And I'm like, this is one of those times where it's unexplainable. My son had a dream his dad got shot. We pray for his dad. His uncle gets shot blocking his dad.
Oh.
And it's just like, my son's coming home from school and he needs a snack. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is
Yeah.
unexplainable sometimes, like, and then the power of prayer too. I tell my kids, like, I felt bad in the moment because I was like, what if we would have prayed for the whole family? Maybe the uncle wouldn't have got shot. But the fact is, his dad got shot the same time that he had that dream. Only his uncle got in the way of the shot that should have killed him. So where Chris was should have got shot, he would have died instantly. But when the brother stepped in just to kind of, just get together close to his brother, he took a shot that was like harmful, but not. It was more harmful because it was creating internal blood. So that was the problem. It didn't hit organs. It just was he was internally bleeding, but he survived. And that
Mhm.
was just one of those things that just wasn't. It's still to this day. Chris, anytime Chris has a bad dream, he comes and runs to me. There has been things that have happened, minor things, but that one was the one that got me because he literally dreamed his dad had got shot, and the next day his dad got into a gunfight. You know, and like I'm so glad I don't live in that area no more. But
Yeah.
this is why like my kids and me live separated from certain family members and things like. But like that was one of those things. My Chris is one. My baby Chris is the middle child who's very quiet, but when he has dreams, like they come true.
Yeah.
Not everything, but when he has
Yeah.
the serious ones, sometimes he's had minor things like, oh, my sister fell off the bike, my brother flipped over a skateboard, things like that when somebody gets hurt. But when he dreamt about his dad, that's the one that kind of freaked me out because then I'm literally just, I don't know what to tell him. I don't know. Should I tell him? I don't know. I just kind of took a breather, had the after school snack, and at dinner
Mhm.
table, I just told him, we need to have a conversation as a family, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that I noticed my son Chris, he has dreams that come true. And I have no way of explaining why. Nobody calls him, nobody tells him things. He wakes up scared, he runs to his mom like a child.
Yeah.
Definitely unexplainable. That was one of
Premonitions.
those things. Yeah.
It's kind of like deja vu. Everybody's like deja vu. No.
Mhm.
Some people do have deja vu. It's from sometimes from their dreams. You feel like you
Mhm.
lived this moment before, but you literally maybe dreamt about it the night before or a couple nights. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
all you ever
Yeah.
have that moment, you're like deja vu. I done this before. I've been here before, but you've never been there physically. Been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like my deja vu happens in the moment too. Like I'll remember that I had that thought a while back, but it's happening in the moment really fast. Like I told Mary the other day, remember I told you when I was living in Victoria, before I had even found out my son was going blind, um, before I even thought about coming to New Mexico wasn't even in my mind.
Yeah.
Um, I had seen myself talking from my room to somebody at my door I didn't even recognize. I was like, I had a weird thought or something like that about it. I was like, I was talking to somebody, but I don't know who it was. Well,
Yeah.
just the other day, I was standing in the exact spot where I was at in that time, and it was my daughter Celia, but she was a teenager. She wasn't a kid. See, when I had the thought, she was still a kid. When I saw her here in the moment where I'm having the deja vu, she was a teenager. That's why I didn't recognize her. Because I
Mm.
saw when I had actually had the thought, and then when it became the deja vu in the moment, I'm like, holy crap, it was her. This is it. This is the moment. I didn't recognize my own kid.
I I had a couple of them moments like I couldn't explain it. I just stopped and it's just like you stop in that moment, you're like, I know this moment. You know what I mean? That minute.
Yeah.
I know this
Yeah, yeah.
minute.
It goes by
You
so quick
feel
too. I
it.
feel like
Yes.
it's like a millisecond moment, but it's like you get it, you know?
You get it. It clicks and
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh no, 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 no. But it's a lot of
Always
unexplained things.
I'm like, deja vu. Ah, I've been here before. I had a dream like this. And I said this in my dream that I had a dream. Because that's normally how my deja vus go. In my dream, I'll be like, hey, I had deja vu. And I'll be like so happy about it. And then I'm like, hey, and I said that too.
I mean, it's just unexplained moments in life that you can't
They do
explain, and
say,
I don't think
well,
you're meant to.
okay, I have a random question. like this is not on like the question list or anything,
Yeah.
but do you think that if you have like deja vu, you could have deja vu from things that happened in a past life?
I think for me, my opinion would be it's possible, but you're never going to see it in this life.
Yeah, that's what sucks.
Because I have moments where like when I was younger, I wanted to be a lawyer, right? So
Mhm.
I've studied law books and things like that, and I was prepared. And then I had a kid young, and I was like, crap, I'm not gonna have too much time to be in court, you know? So I went a different route, became
Yeah.
a cosmetologist. Definitely was nowhere around the medical field. But it seems like when I took cosmetologist, I had to do a chapter of anatomy, and I feel like it just clicked in my brain. Like I got it really good, and I knew, and I was memorizing quick, and it wasn't just my memorization skills because I'm smart and I'm logical, but
Mhm.
that's why I'm a note taker, you know, so that I understand. But for me, like I feel like when I hit anatomy in that chapter book, it was like boom, I had known it for years. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like Mary says, like, can you have a thought of maybe something that happened in a past life? For some reason, anytime, like after doing cosmetology, I was kind of just bored. I'm always one to want to keep my mind learning. I did CNA. I studied the books for the phlebotomy, and it just seemed like I grasped it very well, a lot better. Like if it was just like if I was drinking water, you know, like I just grasped
Mhm.
it really well. And for some reason, I really feel like in a past life I was either a doctor or a nurse because I know medications, I know
Mhm.
things that I never studied for. Like certain, like my doctor would be telling me about medications for my kids, and I would tell them things that I didn't even know that came out of me like Zofran. You know, Zofran is something they give the kids for nausea. But when I first got prescribed Zofran for my kids and my doctor's telling me what it's for, I was like, isn't that for nausea? And then I'm thinking, where the hell did that come from? You didn't study that. You know what I mean? In the moment, you know, but
Yeah.
I feel like I was probably some type of nurse or doctor at one point in my past lives because I grasp it so well.
And Carly, I'm sorry, I'm just telling your business out there.
No, you're good.
She she's really into the past life. She's the one that she can do the past life regressions for people. She's really good.
And walkthroughs.
Um so do you think there's deja vu like in the present life? Like you can remember random little deja vu spots from a past life in this life?
I would like to.
I can say yeah, because I've experienced that. That's why I say that.
Yeah,
Because I
Mhm.
can see myself administering medications in moments like it's deja vu, but I've never been a doctor or a nurse.
I
No,
would.
I did CNA, but when I did CNA, it was because I knew my dad was a bad diabetic and I was taking care of his wound care. And as he was becoming a worse diabetic, I knew that I wanted to take care of my dad. I didn't want anybody taking care of him.
What
So
it's funny that you say that because I remember like that's been coming up here lately. It's come up like two or three times where I have this image where I remember when your dad was in the hospital and I remember you were like rubbing his legs or something. You were at the foot of the bed and you were like rubbing his feet and it was like you were when I seen it, I know I was there. Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
know
you
for
were.
sure you see me, I see
And
you, okay?
anybody who knows me knows I used to rub my dad's legs because he had bad circulation.
Yeah, so he was unconscious or he was sleeping
Hmm.
and you were like rubbing his legs and it was like a tunnel vision, but I always remember that. It's and here lately I've been remembering a lot. It's like a little detail,
Hmm.
like I don't know, it was just like a weird moment. So I could maybe see you, maybe you were a nurse in past life is what I'm trying to get at. It was weird, like it was like one day, it was like what, a couple months ago. I was like, listen, I sent Monica a message. I'm like, listen, I'm just gonna tell you because all day I had been getting bugged. Like I was, I
Yeah.
can't remember what all I said in that message, but I'm just gonna tell you. I don't know what's going on. It's none of my business, but I'm gonna let you know that everything's okay. And whatever that message was, it was just repeated and repeated. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it right now. Like I would be like, I'm
Keep
gonna do it
getting
right now.
interruptions. Yeah.
And then I would get so busy. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it right now. Like I would go get my phone. I'm like, I'm gonna get a messenger. And then like I'm like, I've been trying to get this message to you all damn day.
And it was on point. She was right. My dad was my best friend. He passed away in an instant, and I was 2 hours away. I had to get there. We brought him back home. We buried him. And I think I was very I was very calm in the moment about everything going on in the funeral. A couple weeks later, I had a dream of him, and I just remember crying in my dream and waking up full of tears. I think I numbed myself just to get through the funeral, and then it finally just hit me in the middle of a dream because I saw him and I just cried. You know, because I understood that he wasn't there anymore in the physical realm. But I definitely took care of him very well. And with Mary, like she knows me, but she also knew the relationship with my dad, and she knows that I took care of him. Well, I haven't really. I can say like I've accepted it. I understand life went on for me. Everything's okay. But I still because I can actually hear him if I want. I can communicate if I so choose, but I don't think I'm ready for that yet because I'm still having to deal with losing my best friend as my dad. Not just my dad,
Mhm.
best friend, my spiritual best friend, the only person in the world who understood I had gifts that I couldn't explain that well, and he knew that they weren't bad for me and that he knew I was just trying to figure it out. So
Yeah.
not only did I lose my dad, I lost my best friend. And so I think I hadn't been dealing with that the way I should have been internally, emotionally, and spiritually. So Miss Mary got a channeled message for me that was like, "Hey, it's gonna be okay. You need to deal with that."
Yeah, it was something
I
along the lines of that, like something
wasn't
is going
that
to be
serious.
okay, something like not it's going to work out, but it was like
Mhm.
everything
Worried about
everything is
anything.
fine. Like you need to just calm down. Everything's fine.
And in the moments of when she's telling me this, I had just been going through this thought because my dad, like, it's always around June, July. I get these like questionable thoughts that I know are just me and my carnal mind thinking. But I get emotional and I start thinking like, man, what if my dad was here? You know, I wouldn't be so argumentative with my mom. Me and my mom never got along. So, and we still barely get along, but I feel like I'm thinking, man, what would life be with my dad still now? You know, my dad didn't, it's crazy too. My dad died exactly 7 days before I got married. Didn't get to walk me down the aisle. I was such a shy kid. I never danced with my dad because I always thought when I was a kid, well, I'll just dance with him when I get married. I have to dance with my dad when you get married.
That
And then
doesn't mean that
like
that doesn't mean
7
that he wasn't there. He just wasn't there
Yeah, no, yeah.
physically.
Yeah, but as a kid, like as a child when I was thinking, I was so shy even to dance with my own dad, because I was just very a shy kid. And because I always thought he was going to be there. So then
Mhm.
he dies young. I'm still young. It was like a just a random blood clot that hit one day when he was still real young. He was diabetic, but he was still young and he was actually eating right at the time. So that was kind of a hit sideways. And then now I think about it sometimes and I wonder what life would have been with my dad now at this age with my kids at teenagers. And I think I was just going through the motions at the time. And then Mary got that message and I was like,
Well, I must have delivered perfectly because I was getting distracted all day. But he would. I don't know if it was. I like. It's weird for me because, like, on one hand, I'm like, why would he be coming to me? Like I am really happy
she's
and
only my best
excited.
friend.
I'm like,
She's only
I'm
the only
so
friend he ever saw.
but if anybody's going to come to me, so when I messaged her, I was like, so this might sound weird. I'm just going to tell you. Like, I know who it was,
She's
but
like,
I
I don't
want to
know where
say
this is
who.
coming from. This ain't my business, but I'm just gonna give you the message.
I know exactly who it was, but I didn't want to say it. I knew exactly who it was, but I was like,
Mhm.
she might think I'm trying to, like, I don't know. Sometimes you'll get like these readings and you're kind of like, where are they coming from? And I didn't want you to think like, well, no, it was literally just the randomest crap. Like,
Yeah. It was
and
a handwritten note given to her, and then she just gave it to me in words.
yeah, and he's like, right meow, right now, right now, right now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going. Let me write this out correctly. So
Yeah.
it's like, this might sound weird, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. Sometimes we just think like I think it's a part of grieving. Even if you're grieving
Mhm.
10 years later, we always kind of like I'm sure Carly does this with her family and she just had some losses here recently and like what would today be like? You don't know. I wonder that about Justin too.
I lost my father a few years back. Yet again, he was me and my mom. I can't. My dad raised us.
Yeah.
My mom came on back later in life. I just don't have that connection with her like I did with my dad. I did with my dad, and it could be 10 years from now, and I'll still be grieving the loss of him. It was like to bury him so early, it was just a
Yeah.
shock because I thought he was going to be here. I did. I was like, we have time. We didn't.
You know how I describe it? Like seeing a pitcher throwing a baseball straight in your eye. That's how I felt it hit me. Because my dad, like, he was young, he was getting his diabetes in order, he was good, he was in good shape. Nobody, we knew that he had a blood clot a year before, but they couldn't find it when they were going to do the surgery in his leg. They looked everywhere, they did the tests, they ran the scans, they couldn't find it anywhere. They said it may have just disintegrated. So we left it at that. A year and a couple months later, boom, it hits the heart, stops it. But
That's what
when
happened.
my dad's girlfriend did the CPR, he woke up for about 10 minutes, got to the hospital, maybe 20 minutes, got to the hospital by ambulance, and then flatlined there.
Yeah,
Never
I
woke up.
flatlined 3 times. A couple years ago, I was 40. A blood clot left go in my leg, hit my heart. I thought it was heartburn. Came home. Guess came home from New Orleans. Stepped in the door, greeted my kids, and I was like, I gotta go lay
Mhm.
down. I didn't even get to the bedroom. I grabbed my chest, grabbed my arm, looked at my husband. I'm like, get me out of the house because I didn't want my kids seeing this. I knew exactly what was about to happen because I was an um, I did nursing, and and I was a
You know the
firefighter.
signs.
I knew exactly what was happening, which was kind of weird
Mhm.
for my age. And a woman, it should have hit me in the back, in between the shoulder blades, but it went down my arm. So as soon as the ambulance got here, I couldn't breathe. I got to the hospital. In the ambulance ride, flatlined the first time. I ended up flatlining 3 times. Died. Was brought back. It was just a weird experience. But yeah, your life. I was 40. Nobody's seen it coming. I exercise all the time. I went to the gym all the time. I was way healthier than I am right now. I didn't see it coming. Did
Yeah.
not see that blood clot coming.
Yeah.
I really didn't. It just came out of the blue. But it stopped my heart. It did. It's
You
scary
know,
too.
and
And it
I'm so grateful that you're here now because the way the doctors explained it to me in the hospital is that when a blood clot hits those arteries, there's no coming
yep.
back. You'll be
It's
lucky.
not
They said my dad was lucky to make it 20 minutes before he got, because they said he woke up and he was joking around. He didn't want to go to the hospital. My uncle called because the girlfriend called him because he's a couple blocks down from my dad's house. And they were like, no, we're going to send the ambulance. I'm going to send the ambulance. I don't care. I want you to go get checked because that's his older brother, you know? And they knew my dad was diabetic, but not like having blood problems like that, you know? And
we
so I think that's the doctors were telling me, yeah, that was a miracle. He even woke back up after CPR. Like that was a
was
very
told
like, and
that
they didn't
too.
even know until they opened him up later, you know,
Yeah.
I
once
was
they called
told
him and everything.
when I had my cat done, where they went up through my artery to see what damage was done in that. The doctor walked in and told me I was so lucky. He's like, that was a major heart attack. He goes,
You were so
people don't
young.
walk,
You're 40. 40 is still young.
and they're like, people don't walk away from that. I
They
did.
don't, girl.
I
That's what
did.
I'm
And
like.
then
I'm like, "Whoa." You know, when you told me that, I'm like, oh my God, she made it. Like, you know, and I'm so grateful to know that I'm in your presence because my dad
Lenny,
didn't make
ready
it,
for
you know.
this one? A year later, was driving home on ice, flipped my Durango 6 or 7 times into an embankment, became entrapped. Passerby seen the bottom of my car in the ditch, filling up with water. I knocked myself out. My seatbelt left go. No airbag exploded like it was supposed to. I walked away from that too. I got lucky twice within like a year and a half span, about a year span. I got
Oh my
lucky twice.
gosh.
I was like, I'm not going to have a third luck of the draw. I'm
You
not.
might. I'm gonna start
I
calling you the
mean,
Catwoman with your
that's
nine
everybody's
Yeah.
like,
lives. I'm
everybody's
a
like,
nine
Nine
how?
lives for
lives.
you.
Everyone's like, how did you walk away? Not with one, but two
Within a
things that,
year span.
yeah, within it was like about a year.
Because
And
they say too, it takes a long time for the stress of the heart to kind of heal too, you know. So you're still in
oh
you're
yeah,
still in the healing process, you know.
I am. I'm not
Yeah.
back to work yet. I'm getting back, but like I can't go back to what I used to do. It's too much
Mm,
stress. I still go through it. I have nitro sitting with me at all times. It ruined the lower valve of my heart. It destroyed it. When it blew through my heart valve, it destroyed it. Everything in its path. But
Wow.
hey, I was lucky it didn't hit the brain.
yeah,
It did not give me an aneurysm. It gave me a heart attack. But the
yeah,
doctor did. He come in. He goes, "You're lucky." I was like, "Okay." He goes, "No, you're very lucky." He's like, "I just don't know how to tell you this. You're lucky." I was like,
yeah. There's no other word but luck for it.
I didn't feel
Yeah.
lucky because I had some bruised and broken ribs from the sea. I didn't feel lucky in that moment, but I
Yeah,
knew I
yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I knew I was lucky. So, but I know how it is to lose a parent. It's the worst feeling in the world,
Yeah.
especially at such a young age. Is like,
Yeah,
why?
yeah. I think with my dad being 54, I used to think that's old because your parents are always old, when you're a kid,
Yeah.
when you get older. But then like after watching him die and come back and be coming into like go into recover and then be doing good and everything, and then boom, it just slaps him randomly, and it boom, yeah, it's that's it.
Yeah.
As a kid, you think, that's my dad always, no matter how old I am, that's still my dad. So I'm always like, oh, he's old, whatever. But when I realized he really was only 54, like, you know what I'm saying? Some people are
Yeah.
living out till 98. Like, he still was considered to be young. And even though his body had got diabetes in his late 30s, or I think early 30s, is when he got diabetes diagnosed.
Mhm.
At first, he was a bad diabetic, but then he got healthy. So I was like, how does
Uh,
this happen? You know?
hold
But
on.
yeah, he was still
These
fairly
Wait,
go
young.
why is
off.
your fires going off?
They go off. They've been going off every. Hold on. Scare the shit out of me. Hold on. Y'all can keep going.
Okay.
Oh wait, it's over.
Ow,
Okay,
that's
so
scary.
I'm gonna tell y'all something
Yeah.
here on this live. There was this. There was this one time.
Oh, wow.
I don't want
Okay,
to
every
go.
time somebody starts with that, I think of there was one time in band camp. Just put it out there. Oh, sorry.
Your age is
Sorry.
showing.
My age is showing.
So I keep looking over there like I'm gonna see something. Um. Okay, it's the cat. So, anyways, when I lived in Kepner, I don't remember. I feel like I knew Carly around this time, and I've told this story 100 times because it's so wild to me. So the see, I keep hearing somebody talk, and so I'm like, who is that? Anyways, so I don't even know where to start with the story. It's a long one, so we'll start at
We're gonna.
I was laying on the couch.
I'm still gonna
And
be here, guys. I'm just gonna shut my camera off for a second.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I'm still gonna be here listening.
okay.
Oh,
So so I was we had all this stuff happening in the house. I don't know if you remember, like there was one
I
day
do
I think
remember
I
that
called.
house, and I remember you telling me about that house. Yeah.
You remember when I ran to the bathroom, like I was on the couch and then I had to go pee and then I had to run to the bathroom and I saw
Mhm.
Paisley, but it wasn't Paisley. And then she was looking in the mirror, but like thankfully I didn't look in the mirror. I don't think I had the balls to do that. So, anyways, why be so dark? Okay. So,
yeah, I was gonna
anyways,
say that. It got
it's,
really dark.
somebody unplugged my lights up here. So, anywho, so then, shut up. I see Chris's comment now.
Yeah, band
Okay.
camp.
At Bandcamp, yeah, his age is showing with us.
Yeah.
If I told
You're
my kids
looking.
that, they wouldn't even know what I was talking about.
I'll be
Don't even
tripping
mention
right
it in their
now.
family. I know
Okay.
your
So
lights look like they're little flickers.
you see my face turn red? I could hear something over here, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So let me just chill out for a second.
Was that you just knocking?
Shut the
Something
fuck
just
up.
knocked. No,
Shut the fuck
something
up.
just.
Shut the
Did you
fuck
hear that?
up.
Y'all heard that, right? I'm
I didn't
serious.
hear you
Okay.
know.
I heard a knock.
Did you hear
Okay.
this?
No, I heard a knock.
Well, I ain't opening. So,
Okay, well, sorry. I did.
okay. So, anyways, yeah, I'm old. I'll admit it. Um,
I
okay. So
see you,
there.
Chris. You're right on. You with us?
So I had seen.
He understands the lingo.
Yeah. So I had seen like that. I mean, there was one day the door flew open, and I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and then Shannon was on the couch, and then Dickhead was in the bedroom. I just heard it.
Okay, then. I'm not the only one.
I don't know what that was. Holy shit! I need to turn on a. Hold on, let me go turn on the light. I'm about to have a heart attack.
Don't do that. That'll give me PTSD right there. No, I'm
Like,
just kidding.
I'm gonna be honest with you too. Remember how I tell you sometimes my lights flicker? Okay, I'm literally in my room and I have two lights. The reason why I do the live with you guys here is because if anything ever happens like that, I want y'all to catch it with me because apparently every time I'm on live with you, it seems like my friends that like to flicker my lights don't ever mess with my lights. This is probably the most longest time that I've seen no flickers. And I switched the bulbs. It doesn't happen unless I don't know. Like, there's no main reason. Like, I've already checked the electricity, the breakers. I've done new bulbs. I've changed the whole house of all bulbs, expensive bulbs, bright bulbs. First of all, like it looks like sunlight in here. And so I've been waiting to see if y'all can catch it with me because it's not a normal flicker. Like it's like I feel like it's Morse code going on, you know. So when you see me here, it's because I'm trying to let y'all catch it with me.
Well, I don't sit in my
Well,
kitchen anymore because every time I sat in my kitchen, everybody's like, "Something's behind you." So I stopped sitting in my kitchen. I did ask Esther. Remember the lives? Oh wait, remember the lives? Something's behind you years ago, like 5 years ago.
oh
I
my
don't throw them no more in there. I
god,
refuse.
you're like I'm done.
Done. Done.
So there'd be like, so then I had like this. I had a miscarriage, and I had a girl that was messing with my stuff, and so that's how I went through all that. Firstly, when I met Monica, that's what brought us together, our detective skills, I guess. And well, anyways, a wolf in sheep clothing was kind of messing with it, so I gave her like a glass castle. Shut the fuck up. Nope. Nope.
Yep, I
Nope.
heard that. You heard that, right?
Shut the fuck up. Brennan!
You know what? I need to start wearing my earphones because I can't hear that. But you guys always get the good stuff.
I heard that. That sounded like a voice.
Oh my god. No. That.
That
Look at
sounded
her
like a
face. She's
voice.
flushed. This is real. This is real on live. We're on live, guys. Okay. Miss Mary
we
went
have
from white
caught.
to pink.
We have caught
I need this to
EVPs
be
on our
Carly
lives
and not
before.
me. Carly's
Hey,
more voice.
hey. No, my house was the last one. It said out the
Hey,
window and a little
she's
girl's
got
voice.
cameras catching everything in her house.
Yeah.
We don't need
No,
to add
thank you.
noise.
Remember that? Or we heard all them car noises and I live in the middle of
It
nowhere?
sounds like someone's like.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
mm,
Sounds like somebody's moving something around. That's what it
Yeah.
sounds like.
I swear if it's the cat.
It might
I got
be.
headphones on. One of my kids took them and hid them from me, and they're scared to tell me because they know they're going to be in trouble.
Are you upstairs? Can you come downstairs and hang out for a minute? I'm not scared, but weird stuff is happening. And I'm on a live, so it doesn't help.
Her red showing. She's like bright red,
Come
right?
I
sleep in
see
the
you,
chair.
Chris. Laughing.
Three of you, it's fine.
She's dying. You are bright red, girl.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
You are flush. Your red is showing.
Well, when I can't see it, I don't
I
like it.
get pale, she gets red.
If I can see it, I'll have a heart attack. But if I don't
Don't
see it,
stop saying that.
well, I'm sorry. That
They
was
hurt,
wrong.
by the way. They
I'm
hurt.
sorry.
That was worse than child. Remember, I gave birth naturally 3 times out of 5 of my kids. That heart attack, I'd rather give birth all over again like 50 times before another heart attack.
I swear, if it's like the
That
cat
hurt.
eating fucking food, I'm gonna fucking lose my shit.
It could be the crunching.
Well, okay, so let me tell y'all. Let me get more detail in the story a little bit now that we're here in Spook Town. Um,
It's
She's
spook
so
room.
right.
that story was like that. It was like the longest ghost story ever. Honestly, like I remember when. So I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and Shannon's on the couch, and then Dickhead is on the bed, like in the room, well, on the other side of the house, and I'm looking. I'm just kind of. I don't know if I was reading my Bible or I was on my phone or something, and I was just kind of sitting on the edge of the bed, and I kept looking at the front door. This was in like a trailer, and so I'm looking at the front door, and all of a sudden that like that bitch ass door opened up. And let me tell you, that wasn't an easy door to open. I had a crackhead close it up with some nails once, okay? Like, because it would not close. Okay, excuse my language. I'm a little like fewed up right now.
She
And
lives around some crazy people.
yeah, um my
It
gosh.
takes all types.
So
Types.
I hurt my back. Like I went to Nana's house and I was moving this furniture, really heavy furniture by myself. And then when I came back 2 days later, my back just about broke. Okay, so I couldn't move for like a month. It was horrible. And so I'm like laying on the bed and I remember I finally get in this deep sleep and I remember the dream. This is real. In the dream, there was all these firefighters running like and they're like, "There's a fire," and then I woke up and the freaking fire alarm was going off. It was 2:30. Twice it went off at 2:30 a.m. No batteries, no wires, no nothing. So how the fuck did they go off? I don't know. And now you got this new ass house on this creepy ass property with the fire. This is the third, fourth time the fire alarm's gone off randomly.
You know what though? I've heard. I'm glad you explained it like that. Where people don't realize that that ground has history.
It does.
You can
It
put a
does.
nice shiny house on top of a crazy ground, and you're gonna see it come out.
Has
I do
nobody
know.
seen The Simpsons?
Uh, my house is like 5 years old. I'm the first one to live here, and look what happens in my house. But the ground itself
Listen, I don't need your
is
ghosts at this
old.
house, and I
We
don't need
did
them at the
a
new place either.
Just saying.
Round Rock behind the outlets that were built. The Round Rock outlets, when they were
Mhm.
first being built, and there was apartments being built right behind there. I lived there with my dad. Right now that we're talking about ground, my dad's girlfriend bought a house that had just been built in the new community where they're making new houses. We moved in with her and I felt so weird, but it was like I was confused. It was a new house, right? So I'm like, why do I feel
Mhm.
so weird in this house? I feel like there's always somebody watching me.
Yeah.
I kept telling my dad, like, I gotta move out because I just can't stand this guy watching me. It's a guy. I know it's a guy. My
Mhm.
dad kept telling his girlfriend, like, my daughter's spiritual. She knows these things, this is a new house, but maybe it's the ground that we are under now. She's like, I haven't seen nothing, and I'm just but she would take pictures. She was a picture taker for that specific reason because she was like intrigued. One day my dad sends me a picture after I move out. And it's like 2 weeks, and I'm gonna take Nevaeh over there for dinner, my daughter. She
Mhm.
sends me a picture. She's taking, when you take selfies for your boyfriend. She had just straightened her hair, took a picture next to the mirror. So the mirror's right here, and she's taking a picture for my dad to send her. I mean, that for her to send him. And there's a finger coming out of the mirror. You see the hand? It's a dead gray hand. There's the mirror, and there's the finger
Hell
here,
no.
and then the mirror here. That's all you see like this. And then you see the selfie. And this was back then when the flip phones were like still
Mhm.
flipping and no good imaging. You know what I'm saying? So she still has it in her phone somewhere in her closet. She always keeps that phone specifically for that photo. But that was one of the things that I remember, like the ground. This was a brand new house. She was the first owner to live in it. She was buying it. And I remember living there for only 2 weeks and I had to go. It was uncomfortable. I felt like there was a man staring at me all the time. It was just uncomfortable. And not even 2 weeks after I leave, she takes a picture and boom, there's something dead in her mirror in this brand new house. Nothing else can explain that but ground. What's gone on that land.
And it's not always where the person has passed that is haunted. Here's a little quick story. My mom's old boyfriend had committed suicide. You know, what I mean,
Wow.
by gun. A couple months later, my
No,
mom was
it
doing
was. I was
EVPs,
down
playing
here.
around. I guess she
Mhm.
caught a male's voice saying, "I didn't do it." In
I
her house.
saw that.
Now he did that in his house. Come to find out, the cops still have an open investigation on this one. They don't think it was because how the gun was
It
positioned
was made
and
to
the
look like
body.
it
Yeah, it was no way he could have done it himself, type of
at
thing.
the angles.
But she
Yeah.
caught
That's why
it.
I'm so glad I love forensics. Like as a logical thinker, like I really like forensics.
She caught the voice though, and it sounds just
Wow.
like him. That's what my not older, my middle son, he does. He took forensics and is doing criminal psychology. He's going back to school right now for it, but he does forensics. That's
Yeah,
what he went to school for.
one of my best friends from the neighborhood that I grew up in literally lived across the street from me for
Yeah, he loves
years.
it too. He really
He's a
does.
forensic. Yeah.
He'll tell you like the dead can speak through science.
Well, let me tell y'all a side note. I just told him, I said, I don't need a man and I'm not scared. And he said,
Oh yeah, your face says it all.
He said I saw your face though.
Yeah. She's like
He said what
bitches.
you're telling me is one thing, but what's going on here is
yeah.
another.
I'm like,
Now
sorry, go ahead.
now let's get back to the fact or fiction quick. Let's
Yes, I was
finish
just
Oh,
about to
that
say
yeah.
one.
that one. Yeah. Don't forget about our fact
Um
and fiction.
dun dun dun. It was real. It was a real police case a couple years ago. It was all over the news. I don't know how many people remember that one. It was real. He
Hey,
literally
Chihuahua, oy vey.
he did stalk her. He did go move into her house without her knowing.
He
Was
did get
messing around
caught.
with stuff. He did get caught. He did
He
go.
did plan to kill him. Yeah.
Yep.
So this would have
And
been a
he
premeditated murder because
yes.
he was living there for weeks.
Yeah. So it was true. It wasn't ghostly activity at all. It was her ex boyfriend.
I love our fact or fictions. They're so awesome.
Mm-mm-mm.
Well, I definitely enjoyed everybody being here today.
Yeah. We stayed a little bit longer. We've
Yeah.
had,
We were having
um,
fun.
Yeah.
we definitely
And
had,
then Miss Mary had a
Everybody.
moment.
Mary. Sure, it wasn't. It's-
oh my gosh. I'm like, the last couple of nights, I just keep hearing people like walk around upstairs and he's
oh,
convinced that somebody's in the attic, but every time I go, there's nobody in the attic.
dude,
But
I
then I'm like,
heard.
it's like, I don't think it's somebody in the attic. I think it's a ghost. And then, if y'all didn't know this before, the ones in the comments, um, he heard his name. He heard me call his name twice. The last one, he heard me screaming. I'm like, Brandon!
Yeah.
And what's worse about it is he answered it, and he was like,
So
"What?
it's mimicking. That's a
Shut it!
mimic.
Shush your little.
We don't speak that word here.
We
It's
don't.
just a
Remember what happened
word.
last time?
We rebuke that."
It's just
I
a
literally hadn't
word.
said that word in so long,
I
and then recently we had a conversation about it, and I said it, and then all of a sudden my lights start flickering, and boom, I get shut off from the conversation with him. Remember that one?
yeah. That sounds
Phone
like
went completely
yeah,
dead.
I blame Carly for all of this.
I didn't do it this time. I'm too far away. I'm innocent.
Uh
It
huh.
wasn't me. Didn't
You're
do it.
sending it through the electricity.
This ain't no lawnmower
You know
man.
what? You know what?
Hey, we don't
I
have
send it back
electricity
to
to the
you.
wire no more.
No, remember that movie, Lawnmower Man, where
Oh
he
my
went through
god.
electricity? I know my
Mhm.
age is showing again.
Your age is definitely
I don't
showing.
even think Chris will know that
That
one.
was in the 80s.
All
That was
right. Well, I
around what
guess.
is it, Mr. Fly and all that.
Mm-mm-mm.
But be kind, like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to look us up, y'all. Look for us on, what was it? Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. With TikTok going down, we had an announcement with that. We
We're
might
on
be
top of that,
switching.
guys. Don't worry. We're
We're
right on
going
top
Have,
of that,
we'll,
Rose.
we'll have
YouTube.
something down by midnight. So here in about
Yeah.
2 hours,
And we will
midnight
definitely
Eastern
keep you
time.
guys updated for sure.
And blessed be. Love y'all.
Peace, love, and happiness, guys. Bye.